So back when back when I commuted places and listened to morning radio, which at this point feels like it was the Ice Age, even though it was only March, my favorite bit on the radio was called Facebook Fishing. So people would send in their favorite examples of those obnoxious status updates when people were fishing for attention. Then the radio show host would pick the most dramatic example and act out the characters in this Facebook drama. It was the best. And come on, we've all seen and maybe even participated in those vulnerable posts. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the Daily Huddle, your motivation playbook with me, Life Coach Franzani. We're finishing up our conversation this week about vulnerability by talking about what vulnerability is not. We've been using Brene Brown's description of vulnerability, which is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. She also describes vulnerability as showing up and being seen. While vulnerability is a practice, like meditation or sleep, there's a time and place for it. You don't need to show up and be seen all the time. Here are 3 examples of what vulnerability is not. Number 1, being vulnerable does not mean you are required to share your vulnerability with everyone. No one is entitled to your uncertainty, your risk, or your emotional exposure. People must earn your vulnerability. Not everyone needs to see you all the time. We are blessed to live in a day and age where we can still be connected to our elementary friend's mom on Instagram, but she shouldn't have a say in your life. Especially when it comes to motivation, sharing your deepest desires with all your Facebook friends can be demotivating and send you on a comparison doom scroll. 2, vulnerability doesn't look the same for everyone. What's vulnerable for you is not the same as what's vulnerable for me. The risks and uncertainty I'm motivated by aren't the same as the ones that you're motivated by. Listen, maybe what I'm calling drama in that Facebook fishing thing is what you call debate, and facilitating that is your jam. I follow people on the intrawebs who facilitate debate as their entire platform. That's super vulnerable, but I'll take a hard pass on that. Similarly, there's a good chance that recording yourself sharing your vulnerability for strangers and your aunt to watch on the intrawebs is equivalent to torture. I get it. Jump into your scary waters, not mine. And finally, number 3, vulnerability and boundaries are not mutually exclusive. Y'all, it's my favorite relationship. It's the both and. Being vulnerable is not a state. It's a practice. But the consistency comes from showing up and letting yourself be seen on your terms, in environments you feel comfortable in, not all the time in every scenario with every person. Vulnerability, after all, has layers. There's a term that says we should teach from our scars, not our wounds. I'm in an industry where I tell you some pretty personal stuff, but I share it from a distance, from a place of scars. When it's raw and I'm experiencing something fresh, I reserve that vulnerability for a select few. You can and should choose to share with this person now and maybe that person later. It's up to you. Be selective and protective with your vulnerability. So that wraps up our conversation for this week. Thank you so much for watching the Friday Huddle with me, Life Coach Franzani. Every week I pick a theme, and every day we huddle around a topic so we can create our own playbook for motivation. Actionable steps to stay connected to our goals and show up at our best every day. I'll see you here next week. Give yourself an amazing weekend.